Today we're going somewhere profound, right to the foot of the cross. It was a place designed for fury, for judgment, but it got transformed by a kind of grace that honestly is still one of the biggest mysteries out there. And to get started, I want to ask a pretty basic question about, well, about us. So think about it. When someone does you wrong, or when you see a real injustice happen, what's that first gut feeling? It's that the scales need to be balanced, right? There's this deep, almost primal need for a wrong to be made right. And usually that means some kind of payback. That feeling, it feels like it's just wired into our DNA. And that right there is the core conflict we're digging into. On one side, you have our human instinct, retribution, payback. But on the other side, you have the cross, an event that, on one dark afternoon, went against every single one of those instincts in a way that is, well, it's just astonishing. So let's really look at this paradox, this collision of what seems like totally justifiable fury and this radical, unexpected forgiveness. I mean, just try to picture this for a second. The mind that dreamed up galaxies, the voice that spoke stars into existence, is being held down, pinned to a piece of wood. And by who? By the very people he created. The sheer, crushing irony of that moment is almost too much to wrap your head around.
And think of all the reasons for an absolutely explosive reaction. He's in unimaginable agony, being mocked and tortured by his own creation. And here's the kicker. He had legions of angels just waiting for the word. The power to end it all, to bring down judgment right then and there, was completely at his fingertips.
But that's not what happened. In that moment, there's this incredible shift in perspective. He looks past the soldiers, past the mockers, past everyone just standing around, and he doesn't see enemies that need to be crushed. He sees lost children. And that perspective right there is the key to everything that happens next. Which brings us to the absolute turning point of this whole story. It all comes down to 7 specific words, words that completely rewrote the rules of the universe.
So here he is, in his most desperate hour. He's suffocating, he's bleeding, he's been abandoned. And he uses what little breath he has left, not to curse anyone, not to condemn them, but to do something that nobody could have ever predicted.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. Now listen, this isn't just a simple request. It's more like a diagnosis. He's not just asking for mercy, he's explaining why they need it so desperately. It's because they're blind. They have no idea what they're actually doing.
And this is huge. This prayer wasn't some last-ditch effort, some plan B to try and fix things. No, it was like pulling back a curtain to show us the very heart of the Father. It tells us that mercy isn't just something God does when things go wrong, it's who he is. It's his very essence. So what does it really mean, they know not what they do? Well, it suggests that our sin, at its very core, is a kind of deep blindness. It's this desperate, clumsy, often destructive search for the one thing we were made for, love. We're all looking for fulfillment, but we're doing it while pushing away the only true source of it. Now, this single act of mercy on the cross, it actually builds into an even bigger idea, one that could completely reframe how we see something as huge as Judgment Day. You know, the Apostle Paul wrote that our minds literally can't comprehend what God has in store for us. And we usually apply that to thoughts of heaven, right? But what if it also applies to God's character, to the true nature of his mercy? What if we really truly haven't seen anything yet? And that leads to this radical way of reimagining Judgment Day. We instinctively think of fear, of a divine courtroom, of being held to account. But what if it's not that? What if it's actually the day of ultimate revelation? The day the veil is finally pulled back, not to show us a cosmic scorekeeper, but to reveal a depth of mercy that our human justice-driven minds just can't even begin to process right now. See, just like the cross was a moment of judgment that ultimately revealed an unbelievable mercy, the final day could just be the ultimate expression of that very same pattern. It might just reveal a God whose heart is so much more forgiving, so much more expansive than we have ever dared to imagine. So what does all of this mean for us, right here, right now? What's the final, most important thing to take away from this incredible act of love? Here it is. The cross is a mirror. It's a perfect reflection of the Father's heart. It's a heart that, when it has every reason in the universe for fury, chooses forgiveness. When it's faced with absolute malice, it chooses mercy. And if that forgiveness could be extended to the very people driving the nails while the wounds were still fresh, how much more is that same embrace available to us?
And that leaves us with one last, profound question to just sit with. What would change in our lives? What would change in your life if we lived not in fear of a God of judgment, but in constant, quiet awe of a merciful Father who, even with his final breath, was making a way for every single one of us to come home?